Okay, so there's this video on the internet of this man doing a trick with an orangutan. And I've been analyzing it, and I'm pretty sure I know how it's done. But let's go ahead and watch the video normally. Okay, so let's start out with some analysis here. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. The first thing I want to point out to you that is really, really fishy. Look at the kind of camera motion, right? We can see as we're scrubbing here that the camera is quote unquote moving. I don't actually think it's moving. And observe the camera, right? Look at the edges of the frame. It's moving as I scrub. Look right here. Just stops, right? Which means the camera's on a tripod. And then it's moving. Now, this is a very common technique that was pioneered by probably Zach King, but basically of artificially moving the camera. And it makes a lot of sense because for these kinds of tricks, you need things scientifically down to the nearest millimeter exactly in the same place. So having a fixed tripod camera setup is really the only way to accomplish this kind of trickery. Now, the really weird thing is you see we have motion, 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 and stop. I just think that this just adds some drama, really. I just think it makes it look more dramatic. But one weird thing I do want to point out is the moment the camera stops, this tree right here starts moving. Reflection, and then if we just go back, there was zero motion. Like for the entire start of the clip, zero motion in the tree, zero motion in the tree, zero motion in the tree. Boom, tree starts moving. The moment the camera stops shaking, I actually think the tree, the wind just picked up. But if there's somebody out there pixel peeping, you know, that catches something I didn't catch, maybe. But let's continue. Here's how I think the trick was done. I think that they first filmed the gorilla. And for this part, I think the card was there. So let me explain. I think that there is one take with the gorilla throughout the whole thing. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, obviously they have the cooperation of the zoo, obviously, and I think the zookeeper put a card, and I think the card was placed exactly there, and the frame what we're seeing is a video of the gorilla examining the card. He's figuring out what to do because I started analyzing like for the stick that he had or she had and or they and I couldn't really detect any difference. It's so clean. And because it's so clean, it just has to be one take. So the question is, so that's sort of interesting. because the moment the card disappears, the tripod, the fake motion stops, right? Because here in this part of the video, the card is there, right? The gorilla is inspecting the card. Ignore the man for a moment, right? The gorilla is already inspecting the card that's on their window, and but they've edited that part out, right? They kind of sliced the video in half. They sliced the video in half, so you're only seeing really that part of the image, and then this part of the image is from a totally different take, but we'll get to that. So I do think it's really kind of interesting that the fake motion stops the moment his hand goes there. And that could have been in the editing process that it didn't, like he might have wanted that fake motion constant throughout, but it just might have been impossible. That's my best guess, because it just doesn't look as believable when it just all of a sudden stops. That was my literally only clue, was the fake motion stopping. So let's continue. Notice he's wearing black, and in dark blue navy in the bottom. I think that it helps the effect. So I think I think the gorilla was shot first, and then I think there was a computer nearby, which would be the ideal way to do it, because you can literally overlay the video of the gorilla to know exactly where things were. But notice how his hand is so perfectly placed so that there's no reflection going on to the gorilla. So they measured that. And they measured, because that makes editing easier. And you'll notice the only part that's on the gorilla is his black suit, which is really easy to edit. A reflection in a piece of glass already has opacity to it. So he's just using an opacity, kind of slider, and maybe some gradients, right? And if you kind of look here at his reflection, it doesn't quite, wait a minute. There's just something that doesn't, yeah, look at that. Look at that, right there. This stick. Boom, gone, no stick. See that? That's the tell right there. Right, because if it was a true reflection, that would show through. But the fact that it doesn't right there just means that his editing was, he just missed that part in the editing. So there's another tell. But macro, bigger picture, he's wearing dark, and that really helps the editing process. And again, his hands were lined up so that there was minimal, right here, absolutely minimal crossover, because the more reflection that's, kind of where the gorilla was, the more difficult of an editing job it is. So what I think they did, I think that they, right here is the gorilla's take. And I think he just put he had somebody at the camera, and he kind of moved his body, and the person at the camera said, okay, stop, with this gorilla on the camera and possibly on the computer, which would be the easier way to do it. And he kind of just moved his body, and when they said, okay, stop, he might have even made a mark with tape, a tiny little piece of tape that the camera couldn't see, so that he knew where to put his hand. There was some visual marker that he used, right? That could have been edited out, or it was just so imperceptible that the camera couldn't pick it up. There's another tell. I just found another tell. Look at that. Right here. See that? What the heck is that? Another goof in the editing. And you look at that there's that line. Yeah. Clean line, not clean line. And there's also some kind of little white speck. So there's another tell. So let's move on. He might have been palming the card, right? There is a little bit of magic, right? Because he had the card here, boom, right? He might have been palming the card. In fact, let's look for the palm. If you look up in the reflection. Well, he's probably a pretty good sleight of hand artist. So that's my explanation for how we actually did that. Because I think it's one take. It's way too clean for this to be, more than one take. Now let's keep watching, because there is some extra stuff that he did. So again, the orangutan video has already been recorded at this point, and his person at the camera is going, okay, his person at the camera is telling him, okay, the orangutan's inspecting it with a stick, right? And he knows to smile right at that point. This is just a really good acting job. And, right, he picks it up, he smiles again, he reacts again, right, smells it, and taps it, right? He's reacting, right? And this has all been recorded before, so his person at the camera is just saying, okay, John, okay, drops. His person at the camera goes, okay, he just dropped it. He has his reaction, and boom, we're done. So I think this was done in one take with the gorilla, probably. And probably a few takes with the man, just to get it right. And we've already pointed out the peculiarities. So let's take a look again. Gorilla, right? Gorilla's walking up. The card's already there, but they edited that out. At this point, the gorilla's inspecting the card, right? And that's the beauty of the trick, is that the man is standing, in the exact same spot. So it looks like he's looking at the man, but the gorilla's just looking at the card, without the man there. And the one thing I didn't say is that I think the man is shot with an empty cage. Because it would be too hard to edit, and there must be some other area where they can bring the gorilla, orangutan. So that's how I think the trick was done.